Hey, everybody! It is Dr. Tamu of Coaching by Tamu and Jonelle, and I see she put R in she name, so let me say Jonelle Irish, founder of FinTree Bloom. You will be joining me on 3 platforms, and of course, the recording will be available for you to replay if you're out doing something on this Saturday. So we'll be on YouTube, we are on LinkedIn, and we are also on Facebook. And I will go back through the comments because I know sometimes people watch it on replay and they comment then, etc. And I realized that last time my LinkedIn people were on, but I couldn't see their chat. So I'm going to be looking at my phone from time to time just to see what you're saying to me on LinkedIn so you don't feel left out. So I'm the founder of Coaching by Tamu and Innovative Education and Training. I'm really here. I work with Caribbean entrepreneurs. You know that already, to build profitable, scalable, innovative businesses that have global impact and help you to create generational wealth. And I'm pleased to have Jonelle. Jonelle is here really early in her time zone. So I want to thank her for that. And she is a client of mine, and she is the founder of FinTree Bloom, a really clever name. And so we're really here to talk about business, books, etc. So Jonelle, tell them who you are. Maybe you can tell them where you are, and all about FinTree Bloom.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Brown. I'm just really honored and humbled for this opportunity. So good evening, because I think most of the viewers might be,
Like Eastern Standard Time
yeah,
or
Eastern
AST.
Standard.
Yeah.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Jonelle Irish. I am a citizen of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, but I'm currently living in Taiwan. I studied my bachelor's here in financial management. I graduated last year, and I've been teaching since. And I recently you started my venture, FinTree Bloom. We focus on giving financial and accounting services and consultancy, really. Thanks to the insight of Dr. Brown, I realized that there was a need, especially among small to medium enterprises, to basically organize their accounts, organize their books, get some guidance in that area. And I was just like, well, this is something I like doing. I studied it, so I decided to pursue that. I just like dealing with numbers. I like figuring things out. I like organizing things, just putting things in order. Like a happy day for me is just like give me a stack of papers and be like, okay, Janelle, like we need these sorted out. Um, Find the relationships, find the patterns, like organize it,
Ah,
and I would stay there all day. And I'm good with that. So FinTree Bloom, we're focusing on basically providing that financial and accounting clarity for small to medium enterprises, helping you to understand what your business looks like from the financial and accounting part.
I like that you say that you help MSMEs have clarity. And I think that is really like a differentiating factor regarding what you do, because, other services, they might do your books, right? They might prepare the financial statements. But what is missing is the patterns, the clarity, the trends, and you discussing how, now that we have these financial statements, what have I seen? And what does this mean for you as a business? And I think that's really a defining point, because having been, working with entrepreneurs, and even me, bro, my books are a mess. I'm gonna be called. No, for real, real.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, even me, it's like you can, pump out a statement perhaps, but as an entrepreneur, you're really busy. You're really doing other things. And I always tell people that you should really be in your lake of genius. I'm always talking about that, staying in your lake of genius, swimming in your lake of genius. So while I swim in my genius, I can have Jonelle use her genius, right, to do what she does best and do that accounting and give us that clarity. What do these numbers mean for our business? Now,
Yeah.
I know that with small, medium enterprises, they might be saying, founders might be saying, boy, I really would love to work with Miss Irish. However, my things are a mess. Maybe I have them. One of my clients in Level Up Ladies, I'm outing her. Sorry. I won't say her name, but she said on the call last night, I write everything in a book. I was like, and you've been in Level Up? No. And she's like, I don't even have like any type of software invoicing or anything. And she's not unique. So the question I have for you is, what would you tell entrepreneurs to start doing so that it makes the process easier for you and for them when they try to avail themselves of your service?
My first thing is keep a record of everything and have a filing system for your transactions. I mean, you may be at that stage where you're not yet ready to hire an accountant or bring an accountant on board, but it's always important to have a record of everything. And you can set up a filing system in just some broad categories. So I mean, even if it's so it's not too difficult for you, even at the incept, just your revenues, your expenses, your inventory, and you organize it according to month or week, whatever works for you. And whenever you have your sales, you categorize that as your revenues. Make sure you have a receipt for everything, your expenses, again, any expense that your business incurs, and you just file them in that expense folder. Preferably a digital copy, because then you can always print as needed, and then keep something separate for your inventory. Don't combine your expenses with your inventory, like they're just different things. So
Ah. Well, that's a really interesting point. Now, I'm a service provider, so I don't really have inventory, but of course, I work with lots of businesses that do, and they're product based. Tell us, and I'm sure that when they are, at least some of them, they're purchasing their goods, etc., and maybe two questions in one. So they're purchasing the inputs for their goods. They're selling their goods. I would imagine that they are categorizing inputs as regular expenses, whatever they're using to make their goods, products, etc. And when they sell, they are categorizing it as revenue because it's like sales. So tell us what you mean about keeping inventory separate and why that is important.
because inventory, it is initially recognized as an asset. Your expenses are just costs that you have to incur in the process of generating your revenue. But
Mhm.
with your inventory, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you buy X amount of goods this month, that all of them will be sold this month. So we first need to recognize this as an asset, and you must always have an accurate or close to accurate figure of how much inventory you have,
You
and
have on
especially if
hand.
you're that you have on hand. And then as you sell that inventory, then is when we recognize it as an expense along with the revenue that comes from it. But if
Mhm.
you just mix it with your expenses, it could easily we could easily lose track of the value of
Yes.
your inventory.
Ah,
And
ah,
if your business is heavily reliant on inventory, like your inventory is an
mhm.
important asset for you, you don't want
Yes.
to lose track of that.
Ah, okay. Well, that's extremely interesting. Now, what about service-based businesses? So, like, I'm a service-based business, and so I don't want to give out my expenses, but a lot of those things that I factor into an invoice, well, obviously they're non-tangible, because as a tip for anybody who's on here as a service entrepreneur, if you've been in any of my workshops or so, you know that sometimes I discuss how I calculate fees. And one of the things that I put a factor to is my intellect. So the actual time it takes me to actually conceptualize what you are asking me to do, because sometimes people will come, they're like, Tamu, we want to train, 20 entrepreneurs, and we want them trained in a month. And these are kind of like the things that we want them to learn. And that's it. That's all they're bringing. So I actually have a figure for conceptualization that I build in. Now, they don't see that on the invoice, but that's, of course, how I am, working out my total cost that I'm going to charge. How would, how would I record something like that? These kind of non-tangible things that have to happen, which a lot of it is thought, creation, workshop, worksheet creation, and all these things. Where do I put these in my folders? You talked about these folders we need to have with expenses and so on. Where did it go?
Well, there's no accounting process for those intangibles. It's just that you say that this is the service that you have and you put a price to that, so that when you offer that
Okay.
service, you just say this is the revenue that I've gotten.
All
In
right.
terms of expenses, you might have selling expenses, and this might be, for example, maybe in preparing for the workshop, you print materials for your
Right. Yeah,
clients.
handouts or whatever.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, so these things you will just recognize them as like general selling expenses, but in terms of that intellect, this is not something that can be documented according to accounting procedures. It's just, this is my
Part,
service and this is my price.
yes. So that's more for me on the back
Yeah.
end to understand how I come up with my final price, which will
Yes.
then go down in the revenue column. Am I,
Yes.
do I get an A? An A?
Yes.
Because let me tell you, if you've ever been on a call with me, I'm always like, listen, if it don't end in a zero, don't ask me to do it because I can't add, multiply, none of that in my mind. This is not my genius. Okay. So I'm just making sure I'm on the right track. Now, remember to put your comments. I am looking at Instagram, LinkedIn to make sure I'm not on Instagram today because it's two people. So it make no sense I be on Instagram like you can't hear Janelle. So if you're on Instagram, you need to come over. I don't tell them so. All right. The next question I have, as a small entrepreneur, they might be thinking, well, I'm not doing big business. I make my money, I have a general idea. Maybe I am keeping those reports. Maybe I am writing those things down. So I know how much I make, I know how much I spend, I know what my profit is at the end of a month, a quarter, etc. Why should I invest in getting a professional to generate my accounts and work with me perhaps on projections?
The one thing that I can think about is this this saying or this quote, like, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And
Ah,
yeah, it's kind of like that. You never know where opportunities are going to come from, or you don't know when you will be seeking opportunities. And
yes.
almost always your financials are going to be a requirement.
Yeah.
You're seeking investors, you're seeking to get a loan, or you have an opportunity to go into partnership, something, and they always want to know, what do your books look like?
Yes.
And you don't want to be in this situation where you have an opportunity, or now you're trying to do something and you need to pause for this extended period of time to try and get your books in order. And especially if you've never done it before, then it's going to be messy doing it the first time. And you really just don't want to have to miss out on opportunities. It's just about being prepared, basically, so that when something comes along, then you're just like, oh, I can jump on it. I have the data that you need, and this is what my business looks like in terms of numbers. This is the
Yes.
profitability, this is the scalability.
Yes. That's a really great point because oftentimes, when I'm coaching entrepreneurs or working with them in any setting, and they talk about, funding opportunities that might be available. And maybe they've seen the call for proposals for grants or whatever the case might be, or inclusion in a program. And maybe they've seen it close enough to the deadline, maybe 5 days to go to the deadline. And they're busy filling it out. And this has happened to me, I'm not exempt. This has happened to me in the past where they're busy filling it out, and then you get down to the requirement of the financial records, and you're like, I ain't got none, and I can't get none in 5 days' time, right? And this is a problem I think that we all face. And, even though we might use accounting software like QuickBooks, I use Wave apps. I don't know that we have the prowess to really categorize things as they should be categorized to really generate the types of reports. Now, in terms of the types of reporting, tell us about what FinTree Bloom offers and why those types of financial reports are important for businesses when it comes to their decision making, regardless of how small they might be.
Okay, so well, at FinTree Bloom, we will help you prepare your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement. And we can do this for a period of 1, 2, 3, or 5 years, whatever your requirements may be. And in addition, once we have your financial statements, we can also work on doing projections of those financial statements into 1, 2, or 3 years. And why these financial statements are important, it's because of the analysis that it allows for, which is something that we also do. So, you have like your profitability ratios, your performance ratios, your liquidity, and your solvency.
Mm.
Looking at your cash flow, your ability to handle debt, and your overall profitability and return on investment. Your financial statements allow for you and for anyone that would like to see your books to analyze your business in that way, to see what your numbers, to see what your percentages really look like. And these are also important to inform a lot of decisions that you need to make. Like, for instance, you should not go and seek debt, for example, unless you understand your solvency. Like, what is your ability to handle debt?
Yeah,
And
right. And
you
not to
yeah,
be too heavily leveraged or whatever.
yeah, you need to understand that. And another
Mhm.
thing, for example, with your financial statements, you get to see patterns in months of profitabilities and cash flows. So
Yes.
you wouldn't want to take on certain expenses in months that are traditionally low profit months or low cash flow months for you.
Mm.
So these are some of the ways that your financial statements help you.
Mm. Now, what about a ticklish issue for many business owners is the concept of salary. Now, for me, I'll tell you what I do, and you can tell me if it's like a bad thing, right? I never paid myself a salary, right? I just, use money over profit, which I know you could tell me about that. Now I assign a percentage of all revenue above a certain amount as salary. So my salary wouldn't be consistent. So if I, did a coaching call, maybe let's say a series of things, and it's let's just use 5,000. Remember, it's zero. It's got to be work for me, right? My salary from that is 15%, and so on and so forth and so forth for all pieces of revenue above a certain amount. I don't do it for like $100 or things like that. What do you think about that approach? Because the income is so variable. And how do entrepreneurs, what do you think is a best practice in general for allocating yourself a salary, especially as a solopreneur?
I think that the best practice is to just set what your salary is going to be. This first, it helps to with keeping your personal finances and your business's finances separate, and that is very important. You don't want to be dipping into the business's profits. If you want your business to grow, you need to reinvest as much as possible into your business. You see excess profits, like that should be going into a savings or something for the business, an investment or whatever. So you pay yourself a salary, and then that just helps you, like, okay, this is what I have for myself for the month. I would prefer something that is set. So I mean, like you're saying, for example, you take 15% of whatever, well, over a certain amount, but
Mm-hmm.
it can limit the amount of funds that you actually have available to put back. So, like in a very profitable month for you, for example, yeah, you will be taking home a very nice salary, and yes, that's very good for you. But if you had said, like, my salary is X amount every month, then um, you would have been able to put back more into.
Yeah, but if you're, as an entrepreneur, your income shifts and payment, your accounts receivers, your money for them, everybody who listening, hey, LinkedIn, hey, your money can be pan road long. What you call that? Debtors days? How would that go? What you call that?
Days in receivables, yeah, your days,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so your money can be pan road very long, 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 long. And so there are some months, and I have found that since COVID, even regional institutions in particular, you can be 60 days without them settling the invoice, 90 days without them settling the invoice. And so it becomes difficult to pay yourself that standard salary. So what might be a best practice for that? Because if your money pan road and it ain't in your bank account and it ain't in your pocket, then
I see, like, that is definitely yeah, it's very ticklish. Uh a best, I can't say that,
or
like,
better practice.
I
Oh,
can't
let
say
me not say best practice, a better practice, or, how, or is it two questions in one? So, what's a better way to handle situations like that where your accounts receivables, days to collect becomes longer and longer? A lot of that is outside of your control, right? A lot of this has to do with recession, with, I don't know, girl. I don't know why they're taking so long. But I've been finding it post-COVID. It's just taking really long to get things done. And is it that had I done my accounting as I should have been doing, I would have been better able to figure out how to allocate that set salary? So double question. Better practice, and would doing my accounting and having that analysis session with you helped me to devise a better strategy for that salary allocation?
In terms of like your accounts receivables, I think it would be important to revise that policy in terms of how, like, what are your payment policies when people want your service? Like, do they have to pay a certain amount upfront, and then what is a deadline that they have to fulfill the amount? And I think, you may have to change those bits. I understand that this is just something that is affecting the whole COVID situation, the recession, all of that. Like, it's something that's affecting everyone, and so you do need to be flexible and not be very stringent, or you could very well burn a lot of bridges with business partners or whatever. But you still need to keep in mind that, yeah, money needs to my money needs to keep coming in. So maybe one thing is to
Girl,
revise is
girl,
to revise
them
your.
Caribbean institutions, them ain't care what deadline you put on your invoice. Them paying you when they want. That is what I have found. However, I do agree with your point. I was just thinking about that the other day, about increasing like your mobilization fee, or if you're a product-based business, increasing like your deposit, your non-refundable deposit. If you're a service-based business, stop delivering service without any type of mobilization, and maybe moving that mobilization fee up from like 10% to 40%. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they will just have to really think about, do I need this service? Do I need this product? And if they really want it, then yeah, they're going to come. But you don't want to put it in a situation where you make your services and your products so easily available, especially now. And then, people, like, they take advantage of that. So you would definitely have to review your payment policies.
Yeah,
And in
definitely.
terms of, had you been doing your account, you probably would have had a more accurate or a better vision of, like, changes in your revenue and changes in your cash flow. And
Mm,
you could have been able to adjust. The
mm,
one thing with having like a stable or a set salary is like, okay, even in a low period month, I give this to myself. So it's not like
mm.
in a low period month, oh, I'm starving or whatever. Like, I still have this. Even in a high period month, I still have that. And it's sort of
Still
like,
have that small change, Jonelle, even in a high period? Okay.
first you need to decide what your business, when I'm like looking at your revenues, looking at your cash flows, what kind of salary your business can handle to pay you, right? And you just give yourself that, and it would just equalize itself
Over
over that
time.
period. Yeah. And then
Okay.
what becomes very important is your ability to handle your personal finances. So when you're paying yourself a salary, like, don't like shortchange yourself so extremely that it's difficult for
Yeah.
you to survive, and then you constantly have to be dipping into the business.
And
And
into your
but at the
savings too, even your own personal savings. Yes.
Exactly. But then at the same time, you don't want to be paying yourself like this high salary all the time, that's not
And
sustainable for the
sustain.
business. You
Okay.
know,
Yes. If you have questions for Jonelle, I can see if you have questions on Facebook. I can see if you have questions on YouTube. And on LinkedIn, we're actually lagging, but I can see if you have questions there as well. I'll check the comments. So put your questions in. Well, that has answered a lot of questions for me, and I think many entrepreneurs, because, we're constantly in sessions talking about how best to pay yourself, right? Especially when, business fluctuates. But what you're really saying to us is, if you have a handle on your finances, you would be able to see trends and patterns over time, and you would be able to devise a solution with you in order to create these types of systems like a salary system, your accounts receivable policies. Those are all systems, etc. Now,
Well,
go
sorry,
ahead.
but just one thing that's really important too is
Yeah.
do a personal budget for you. So then you
Mhm.
understand, like, what does my salary, like, what do
Yeah,
I
me
need?
myself.
Yes,
Yes.
what do I need every month in order to survive? And that can also help you in terms of, okay, like, this is what I need, and this is what my business is saying that it can afford. And then,
Yeah.
you find out what works. So I think
You
sometimes
may.
you're just trying to pull a number out of the air, like, oh, I think like this is what I should be paid, right?
Yes.
Or whatever. But no, do your own personal finances as well. Budget all your different expenses and what you need to pay. And then, okay, well,
Yeah.
based on all these things in my personal life, well, this is how much I need.
Yes, and that's a great point because it also can help your planning and objective setting and setting of your key performance indicators for your business to be um, informed by something, because sometimes we're just considering setting goals and objectives and KPIs, key performance indicators, revenue KPIs based on business expenses, not remembering that we are part of that business and we have to be compensated as well. Not well, if you have employees, that they have to be compensated, but where it becomes muddy sometimes is your own compensation as the founder. And so, based on that, you will know, do I have to increase the price of my products and services? Or and if so, do I need different payment options for people? What are the business decisions that have to accompany these KPIs that now include me? And I think sometimes, not a think, I know, because I'm an entrepreneur, I know, right? We burn out, broke down, broke, them the three B's: burn out, broke down, and broke. Somebody write that there in the comments: burn out, broke down, and broke. Because we don't have anyone speaking to us about really how our finances should work as business owners, and things like salaries and the right way to do these things. See, Jonelle was like, girl, that percentage story, you're going to be the three B's: burn out, broke down, and broke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Okay. But that's helpful. Definitely. Another question I have, this it's a little off script, but I do not necessarily for you to indicate the name of an accounting software, but what features? Because we talked about the fact that you have to keep a record. It makes it easier, and obviously, it makes it easier for a professional like you if it would be digital, I would imagine,
yes, yes.
than in the book like my level up lady revealed last night. And my other level up lady, who is one of your clients, she was like, you need to go see Jonelle, because we can I'm not gonna pass her if at the end she's still writing a book. I'm not gonna do that, right? She can't be a level up lady and writing down nothing in the book.
Yeah, no,
But
no,
my
that's
other,
not gonna hold up at
no,
all.
that's a no. She's failed. Uh, but my other level up lady, one of them, she was touting your praises, and she spoke about how working with you and you sitting with her, doing her her finances, doing her projections, how she has such a clear understanding of her capacity for growth, which is really important because that's what I do. I'm focused on growth. Not that I don't care about smaller businesses, but this is where I excel, pushing people to grow. And she talked about how working with you really illuminated for her what her options were and how she should pace her growth so as not to basically bankrupt yourself. Yeah, to bankrupt yourself. And
Yeah.
so, I'm just giving that plug for Jonelle, just so you all in think like, is me one thing, she go and son, thing and thing. Huh? Now, I have some questions about debt. Now, the research is very clear. Women are risk averse generally in businesses. However, the women who have high growth ventures, they are obviously less risk averse when it comes to debt than women who have smaller ventures. Now, women of black women of color, they are significantly more risk averse to debt as entrepreneurs than women than non not what's the right than non women of color. Okay, right.
Yeah, we get what's happening. We get, yeah.
That's where we're going, right? Okay. So and the reasons are many, and they are societal, they are social, they are the way that Black women have to strive, and how Black women have no support, and all of these things that make you risk averse when it comes to debt. Because oftentimes you might be a single mother like me, right? And you're afraid of the debt trap, and then you feed your children. Black women, especially in the Caribbean, we're doing a lot of things and we have no support. We are the support. And so we are afraid. So we're in business and we're really trying to grow this business, but we're handicapped because we're not really taking on the capital that is required to grow the business. What are your thoughts about taking on debt? What type of debt maybe is better debt? Let's say if you're a product business or a service business versus a service business, because they're really different. So, what type of debt might be better debt? And what are some best practices or things that we should consider when deciding if to use debt as the vehicle for our business's growth?
Well, first, I will go back again to your financial statements. That once you
Mhm.
would have been doing your financial statements, you would be able to assess the business's capacity to take on debt. Like, how much debt can it take in terms of, can it pay interest every month, and can it can it pay interest
Interest says problem and yes, I'm going to copyright that.
yeah, can you pay your interest every month, and then can you also be working to repay your capital? So that's the first thing where your financial statements would help. The second
Okay.
thing is, what are you taking on your debt to do? Do
Okay.
not take on, how do I want to say this?
Now broke
Sometimes
down yourself with that what?
it's not producing anything.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
you use it for something that is not
Yes.
going to have like a relatively, it's not going to start producing anything anytime soon. Like, okay, you might, for example, you might take on that and you might just like buy a lot of inventory, but
I was just having this conversation and
like,
I was
no.
like, but Janelle, tell us why, because especially here in the region and specifically in St. Kitts, the customs and like to import anything that you require for your business is so outlandish in terms of the cost. You're paying sometimes 59, 60% in duty and 17% on top of that. And so a lot of times entrepreneurs are saying, I really want to get that debt, that loan, in order to be able to afford the inputs to my inventory or my inventory. So what are you telling us then?
If you need to, like, if you're going to do that, it needs to be that, okay, you would be able to get a certain amount of that inventory out, like, almost
Quickly.
immediately. Like, do not go into debt to buy this inventory and you don't yet have a demand for it, because then that is when your debt becomes problematic, because the project that you incurred this debt for is not generating any cash for you.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it's like, yeah, like, so if you're going to be buying your inventory, let it be like, okay, um i have x amount I have X amount of orders. They're already placed.
Yes. So
They're
you're
already
like
confirmed.
pre-sales.
Yeah, so it's like pre-sale. So, like, if I take on this debt to buy this inventory, then I know I
You know
would
they're
already
on the out the
have.
door.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so,
Okay.
whenever you're thinking about that, you really need to analyze, what is this project, or what is this venture, like, what am I using the debt for? Is it just to
Okay.
just say I'm getting things for my business and it would just like
Ah.
be sitting there? Or
Mhm.
is it, like, maybe there's an opportunity for a contract. You don't have the cash for that contract, but maybe
Ah.
going into debt for that contract would make sense, because, okay, yeah, once the
Yes.
contract is finished, you
There's a
have,
payout.
yeah, there's a payout. So
Mhm.
really think about that project, and then also do not just look at the interest rate on the loan, because
Okay.
there are other aspects of the loan. Like, would your lender penalize you for early repayment, for example? Are
Mhm.
you allowed to, like, schedule different principal repayments? Like, sometimes you might see a loan that has a relatively high
Interest rate.
interest rate, but
Yeah.
it actually has other terms that are more favorable for you and your business. So sometimes
Ah.
people are just looking like, oh, that's the interest rate. Okay, no, I'm not going there. But you
Mhm.
really need to understand, what are the other offerings of this loan.
So Janelle, we need to add that as a service. So put out that. No, for real, like loan counseling, a coaching call on loan counseling, because sometimes especially in the entrepreneurial space, there are, they're targeting you. They might talk about a small business loan, $25,000, no collateral, or they might say, there's a guarantee. System, because I know like there's a partial guarantee thing now in the OECS, but it is a loan, and lots of terms, etc. And you're not really sure as a layperson. When I say layperson, I don't mean dumb person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Ayo? Yeah, Ayo. And don't mean that you dance. But you're not a financial expert. Your expertise in something else. And so sometimes you're trying to determine, but like you said, you're probably just gonna go with whatever has the lowest interest, because that's really like all you know. You can't, I have a saying, a Tamuism. You cannot do what you do not know, so get to know. Right? So
That
I think
makes
that's really an excellent point. And I think that this puts to rest a lot of this discussion that I've been having in my, groups and all sorts of things about not really just using your debt to buy like inventory. So are we using what should we be using when okay, let's say it's coaching by Tamu, and I know, girl, I'm trying to, yes, I want to be an international speaker. So there are some things that I need to do that. Maybe I need a professional photo shoot. I need like a videographer who does what they call your show reel, put together all the things where you've spoken, all of these things to look like you're worth your money when you want to charge 5, 6 figures to appear somewhere. Is that something I could possibly take on debt for as an investment into this future
I I
project?
I, I wouldn't encourage it. I I yeah, I wouldn't
No, not at all.
no. Or if you're going to go into debt, do not incur any heavy debt for something like that. These are some expenses that like should probably fall under your marketing expenses for your business, because that's kind of like what it sounds like, getting
Oh, that's
professional.
smart.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
getting these
Yeah,
photo
it's
shoots and
true. You're
videos, because
marketing
this is,
yourself.
yeah,
Yes.
so this is marketing expenses, so like let the business pay for that. And
Ah,
again, if you have a savings, well, you should have a savings for your business.
yes.
And so
Yes.
when you have like these little pet projects that, yes, they
Yes.
will add value to the business, but they won't necessarily um result in like the quickest inflow of
Immediate
cash.
return.
Yeah, and
Yes.
then you can use your business's savings for that, you know.
Ah,
Yeah. I Again, I just go back, like, incur debt for sales that you know are confirmed. So if you need, like, if you really have like certain orders and maybe they're
yeah.
big or it's a lot, and the expenses or the cash outflow that is required in
Yeah, it's
order
just too
to,
much.
it's just too much,
Yes.
then this is something that you can do, you know.
Yes.
Again, or
So if
maybe,
somebody says to me, I have, at the College of Business, and we want your entrepreneurship business growth planner in our school and to stock our bookstore, but we need 2,000 copies,
then
5,000 copies. Instead of
yeah, so
saying, well, I can't afford that, so you want 500? 500 for your copy, because that is what I could buy. That is then where you would say, well, this is like a confirmed sale. Let me not deplete my business's funds. Let me then take on the debt in order to realize this revenue.
yes,
Ah,
right? Or you can have debt that would increase your productive capacity. So if it is that you
ah,
generally you make products, and there would be equipment that would
right.
allow you to produce more of your products at cheaper cost or whatever, like, this is debt that
You
makes
should. So then
sense.
if you're a service person, not productizing, which means like you don't have a tangible product for those of us listening, what in the world would you take on a debt to do? If you're like me, just delivering, you saying that we shouldn't be taking on debt, Janelle? We ain't got nothing to do.
And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Again, it's just make sure that when you do it, it's just for something that you know, like, is going to bring in that return. So, like, when you were talking about, you really want to do this videography
Yeah,
thing,
that
all of that.
ain't it.
No, that is not
Unless
it.
it's like,
That
maybe, okay, I used to run seed, right? For SIDF, that's the Small Enterprise Entrepreneurship Development, as part of the SIDF fund. I ran the 2 last cycles. So, but the loans were 0%. Okay. And so they are geared towards obviously growing ventures. So maybe in a situation like that, where the loan is at 0%, there are no other things, right? There's, so 0%, you pay it off, you can pay to principal what you want, really favorable terms. So everything, right? And maybe I wanted to, um, you know, speak at certain spaces or whatever. I've been invited to speak, but maybe they're not paying for your airfare. or whatever the case may be. But you want to do like a speaking tour, or you want to do like a training tour. So I want to do like 5 territories in the region. Of course, we're selling sales. Maybe someone else is going to be training with me, etc. But maybe are you saying possibly then I could use a really low interest loan with favorable terms to fund like the travel, the hotel
Yes.
stay, etc. So I don't have to come out of pocket, but because it's part of revenue generation, then that would be a suitable thing if like you're a service person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right, me head
That
in
works.
Sahar, Janelle. Me head in Sahar. I
Yeah,
can't
that
do
definitely
maths, but I could understand. Okay, I
yeah.
got you. So that clarifies a lot of things because I think that it's easier for people who are doing product to understand why they might need to take on debt because it's really clear based on what you have said. You're like, hey, now, better take on the debt to them lower the story there. Take on debt for things where you don't gonna make money from. It's clear.
Yeah.
Things that you need to build capacity. It's clear, but it's really not that clear if you are a service provider. And when I say service, I mean someone who simply uses their mind and mouth. That's the 2 M's.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Your mind and mouth, not like somebody who do pedicure and touching. Mind and mouth, right? I think it's not really as clear. And you really, I think that was a pivotal moment when you're like, Miss Brown, you can't be taking up no loan to talk about you're going to go to Vidget story and take professional picture. You try put that there in your marketing budget, ma'am, right? Ma'am, you try, ma'am, to do that. And so I think, I mean, it really makes it clear because nobody really speaks to mind and mouth providers, service providers about what is appropriate debt. And so we can really get caught in taking debt for the things that you said not to do. Oh Lord, not to take.
Yeah. And a key thing too, it's like understand what you want this money for. Like, why are you going into debt? Have a budget for it and only take what you need. So sometimes you
Ah,
again you might see favorable terms, a low percentage, and then you want to be taking out more
you're
than
going
you really need.
overboard. You're like,
Yeah, you're
well,
going
it's only 2% and da da da. So instead of the 7,000 I need, you know what? I should take a little extra for now in case. So let me take 17,000. Girl, yes, that's what I'd
no,
be
don't
doing,
like
Janelle.
no. No, so you really
Extra.
need to understand why you need this debt. Like really sit down, like why do I need this? What is the project? What how much is it going to cost? How am I going to allocate this debt? And once you have a budget for that debt, then you know how much you need and then you take what you need.
Well, Janelle, we've been living life on the edge. Mhm. We've
We
not
can't be
been
like that
doing
all
it.
the time. And not with
We
certain
haven't been doing it right, Chanel. It hasn't been. Yeah, we've been. That's why we have you, right?
yes, that's our
Now, yes, that's why you're here. That's why FinTree Bloom is here. And remember, I said to add that service. I think that's really
I
critical.
will
It's like
I will
really,
get
really needed. Yeah, it's needed, right? Now, as we wrap up, could you believe that it's really been an hour already?
I know, I
Yeah,
can't believe like it doesn't feel like it at all.
yeah. That means I'm a great interview, right? Now, if you have any questions, comments, and of course, I'll be checking back for the replays, etc. So, if you had to identify the decision, oh, let me go back to a question I had before. If when you're trying to use digital cloud-based software, whatever, to at least record, because that's where you started, like just at least record somewhere, preferably digitally. So that's where I'm going. What features should that software have? Like what should it be able to do for you at the very least so that when somebody comes to you, that not that they need to have it done digitally, but if people are listening and they're like, you know what, I need to start doing these things that Jonelle said to do, recording what I spend at the very least, recording what I make, making sure I keep my inventory separate if you do have that. But what are some key features you think that accounting software like what should it have, or what features should you be using at the very least?
At a very basic level, like
Yeah.
something like Excel or even Google Sheets is
Oh.
it's actually fine,
Mm.
especially if you really don't understand or have that
Like
time
tech, you're not
to
techie.
understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
to understand any accounting software, because
Yeah.
all you really want to do is have a listing. Like, okay,
Okay.
yeah, this is a listing of my revenues for the week, for the month. These are the expenses. And, Excel has computing software. Like, you could just equal, sum,
You could
minus, and
some, yes.
yeah. And so something as simple like recording in Excel, and you could have one Excel file, one file that looks at your revenues. I mean, one tab that looks at your revenues, another tab
Right.
that looks at
Looks
expenses,
at your
inventory. So
expenses.
you can have everything
Ah,
there, and then another sheet that would just like calculate your profit and loss. And it really does not need any expertise in Excel or Google Sheets itself. Like I
okay.
think all of us done do IT.
Yeah. Or you could Google how to do that. Because
Yeah.
those are like basic, right? So you could at
Yeah,
least
but
even just Google how to use the little formula like the auto sum or whatever it is you need.
yeah. So
Okay.
at that basic level, and then but if you're gonna go like more advanced and look for accounting softwares, I guess you want something that would automate a lot of things for you. So like it would give you like the different accounts that you can use according to your business. It would allow you to put in your expenses, something that would just like automatically calculate what your profits are, your total expenses. You want something that does that. But essentially, like, you really don't need much, right? If you're
Okay.
not really like you really don't need much. You just need some place where you can put in your transactions, and you know
Yes.
how to get them, and you know how to get them back, and you know
So you
your
need a
profit.
repository of information.
Yeah,
That's it,
yeah.
basically.
And I would always say, like, be a like be careful when using accounting software, and that is why I would
Ah,
recommend like Excel if you really don't understand accounting, because the accounting software, they try to make it simple for
yes.
non-accounting people, but then
Yes.
some things are not
Get
as
like lost as
yeah, it kind of gets lost in translation or not as
nation.
intuitive when the accountant comes in, because they try to make it
Okay.
easy for the non-accountant person. And
Hmm.
even if and then other times too, like, because you may not understand accounting, you may enter your transactions incorrectly and be
I got it.
calculating your
Long
your your
story.
your financials incorrectly,
Yeah.
because you don't understand the nature of the transactions
Yes.
and how they need to be handled.
To be,
But
yes.
you just
So
do things, yeah.
yeah. So like you said, IT, I used to teach IT way back in the day. And you know that saying, guy go garbage in, garbage out. So yes. So at least with Excel, you're just describing and putting your number and
Yeah,
dividing them by tab. And then like you now can come in with information like that and know how to categorize and put things where they need to go. I
and
understand that.
if
Okay.
you
Look
don't
like
have a little background in accounting and you're not really familiar with the accounting software, I would not recommend you using it, because you can make a bigger mess
big
of,
mess.
yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. That's interesting. I like that. Because sometimes we think that that's the way to go, and it might not, you're saying, be the way to go. So I want to, to tell on at the bottom, you can see the name of Jonelle's business. Jonelle, tell them how they can reach you, etc. Let me put it in the ticker so they can see that as well.
Oh, okay. Well, we have a Facebook page. It's FinTree.Bloom. Yeah, so you can just type that in Facebook, FinTree.Bloom, and that's our page. You'd be able to see our services, our prices. You'd be able to contact us with anything that you need. And I'm also, yeah, I'm very flexible. I'm available on WhatsApp, Instagram. Just doesn't matter. Just reach out. Yeah.
And on LinkedIn, you are there as Jonelle Irish,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Jonelle Irish, yeah. If I me
All
there.
right. So Facebook, it's going across the ticker. So for those of you on the live, thank you. And for those of you on the replay, so it's on the thing, the ticker. So it's Facebook at FinTree.Bloom. But if you type in the search FinTree Bloom, it comes up. I did that earlier. And on there, you can find Jonelle's services. You can find her rates. You can contact her. She has an intake form there. And, I'm really thrilled. Jonelle came with an idea, and, in about 3 coaching sessions, we had a business, So, yeah. So, yes. So, Jonelle, I'd like to thank you for spending the time with us. I know it's really early over there in Taiwan. So,
Yeah.
I am thrilled that you were able to join me. I learned quite a lot. And I know anyone who's going to be watching this on the replay, they are going to get a lot of gems. And I definitely will be coming, because as I begin to make larger moves, like you were talking about, and girl, to fix that salary situation, I need some counseling. Yeah, I do. To do all of those things, I will definitely be coming, and to do some calls about that kind of loan counseling thing, because you really don't know. You're just kind of like, they have the lowest interest rate. Let me go with them. So that was my thinking all along. So Jonelle just smashed any little self-efficacy I had in anything financial over this hour. She was like, you ain't know it. Okay. So Jonelle, any last words before we end the live tonight?
I just want to just impart the importance of having your financials and your accounts done. Like, as long as you are ready, you stay ready, then you don't need to get ready, and you don't ever want to miss out on opportunities because you did not have your accounts in order.
Awesome. So everyone, it was Dr. Tamu of Coaching by Tamu. You can check me out on tamucoaching.com. I'm on Instagram at Coaching by Tamu. If you're watching me on LinkedIn, it's because you're already connected. And on Facebook at Tamu Brown. And once again, I'll be in the comments. And if you have questions for Jonelle, I'll pass them along. So until next time, I believe
Yes.
next time, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. So when I figure it out. But Jonelle, thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you
Bye,
too.
everybody.
Bye.